Hey guys, welcome to the Dude Seriously Show. We're reviewing Age of Ultron today, and we're getting pretty close to the end of Phase 2. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Tim.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Jared.
And we're diving into Age of Ultron. So, what did you think of Age of Ultron?
I actually prefer it to the original Avengers. I like the fact that they're actually a team. You're not seeing quite as much strife at the beginning. They're teasing each other and stuff. It's not my favorite, but it's not my least favorite either. It's probably like right in the middle.
Like you said, I love seeing them finally as the team, and you get to go kind of behind the scenes and see them when they're not fighting. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, definitely. It's probably somewhere toward the middle of my list too, especially on this most recent review. I think that something that's really helped shape these movies is watching them in sequential order with the intent of knowing where we're going here in the universe. And so, you know, I took this movie a little bit less seriously than usual, dude seriously, and I had more fun with it that way. You know, it's just a big universe builder. It brings us the Maximoff twins, it brings us Ultron, it brings us Vision, lots of great ties there.
Rewatching it, I will say that it's not my favorite by any means, and I definitely think it has a lot of faults, but I enjoyed it.
The opening scene has just such great action. It is so fun and inviting, and it's great to see the team working together.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's very cool how they kind of blend from one member to another, but they're all kind of heading for the same goal.
I felt like it was the end battle of the first one when they finally all come together. You know, this time they're established. They know what the strengths of each other are, and they kind of get their moment once again. It showcases each individual member.
And it leads to that iconic shot of them all jumping in together, which is cool.
Great moment.
Yeah.
They can cut up about it too.
Yeah.
Like they formed a relationship enough to poke fun at Cap because he's talking about everybody having language, and they're just doing their thing.
But that actually leads to one of my biggest problems. Widow has that line, and it drives me crazy every time it comes up.
At long last is lasting a little long, boys.
Who would ever say that? And then Tony's got one later in the movie.
I don't want to hear the man was not meant to meddle medley.
Are you freaking kidding me? Nobody talks like this.
Yeah. It's poetic but unnecessary.
Exactly, yeah.
I remember the trailers for this movie were so dark. You know, there's a trailer where he says,
Hope. I'll take that from them first.
wow, okay, that's pretty dark compared to Loki, who was relatively dark in his own right. And then he forgets what the word children is. He kind of stumbles over forming thoughts.
Yeah, I think, like you're talking about the trailers, they actually were almost eerie or spooky in a way.
Absolutely.
And you get in the movie, and he, except for the scene where you first meet Ultron, like Thor's talked about before, or sorry, Ben has talked about before. I got confused. He looks so much like him.
I'm sure you get that.
He has Guardian.
That's the first time. But thank you.
Except for that one scene, he's almost kind of goofy in a way, and he's not very intimidating at all.
I think going into it, like you said, it was all right. You know, if you've read the comics, which I haven't, but I've heard enough people who have talk about it. He is eerie, he's brutal, he's menacing, and you think, all right, James Spader can come in and do this. And no knock on James Spader, but I felt like it was just him being himself. And as you said, it's that goofy, all right, I'm going to try and be silly here, and I don't think that's what we wanted to see out of that villain.
In the Iron Man 3 episode, we actually talked about how the script that you get really determines how the character plays out. So it's never a knock on the actor. It's more often than not a knock on the lines that they were given. You can only work with what you were given.
Yep.
And James Spader, I mean, gosh, he's just next level actor.
They gave him a standing ovation, they said, the first day of filming.
Yeah.
When he made his first intro talking about how can you be worthy, and they said, oh, it creeped us out.
Yeah.
And the whole cast, round of applause. And so that gives you this high hope, all right, it's going to be amazing.
Well, in the comics, Ultron is so calculated and maniacal. And also in the comics, he was created by Hank Pym, who was the original Ant-Man. And so they deviate from his creation, his story, even his MO. You know, in the comics, Ultron's big thing is that he looks at humanity and the course of humanity and sees all of the things that have gone wrong from a sociological standpoint and sees that they were all by the doing of humans. And while that is accurate, without humans, there is no sociological, sphere to work with.
He basically thinks he's God and he's doing what needs to be done to save the planet. He makes all those references about, oh, this church is the centerpiece of Sokovia. And he references all these acts in the Bible, the destruction of this, and ask Noah how he felt about that. And it's just kind of odd. He thinks the way to save everything, well, we got to kill everybody.
Yeah, that is true to his character, but the execution in the movie is what feels weird.
I mean, that's kind of Old Testament, really. I mean, God would, wipe out the earth with a flood or whatever. Yeah. So, I think it is him kind of seeing himself as a new God.
He definitely puts himself into that kind of complex and being holier than thou. He's just being a complete butthole about it. They could have made him a lot darker, especially with his intro.
Well, speaking to Ultron's intro, I saw this great comment somebody made online, and they said Ultron wakes up and he spends 2 minutes on the internet and immediately decides that humanity has to be wiped out.
That's what the internet will do to you, man.
Keyboard warrior.
Yeah, exactly.
I think what we talked about a lot of the promo stuff for this movie before it came out was like, it looked like the Avengers were going to get inundated almost like with an army of ants at one point, because you would see these posters and they're Ultron.
Swarms.
There's Ultron bots everywhere. And although the battle at the end was cool and there were a lot of them, I just never felt like they were honestly really in that much danger.
The closest you get to that poster is when they're in the church where Ultron built that vibranium spine. All of these Ultron bots are coming at them from different angles, and you get the circle shot of this movie, but they kind of put themselves in a constraint, because by putting them inside a structure, you can't get like a long, wide shot because there's going to be walls in the way. So kind of a strange choice.
Is that the best you can do?
As far as execution goes, Joss Whedon had a lot of freedom on the first Avengers. He was brought on as a consultant for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I believe he kind of consulted here and there throughout Phase 2. And then Age of Ultron comes along, and, for what it's worth, there was a little bit more oversight. There were scenes that Joss wanted to do and keep in, or scenes he wanted to take out that Marvel Studios / Disney were forcing upon him that he had to do. I know that for you, the Thor journey, where he kind of learns about the Infinity Stones, a lot of that got chopped out because they made him decide between, okay, you can have all of that, but you also have to have the Hawkeye farm scene. That was a Disney thing that they wanted. And so balancing it all out, some of that stuff kind of fell out from under the story.
Whose stupid idea was the epically long Banner and Widow love scene or discussion?
I enjoyed seeing that, okay, he's a guy who thinks I'm never going to be able to find anybody. No one's going to love me, and she's kind of got that same mentality, I think. And, okay, wow, maybe we can work something out. But as you said, it doesn't need to be that much of a centerpiece of this movie.
It almost would have been better to me if there had been almost like, and I pardon my reference here, but like a Friends tension, where Ross and Rachel, you want them to get together, but they're not. Maybe if they just had a little more tension instead of trying to almost just force them together in the instance of a movie.
It's this whole back and forth thing that they go through.
Yeah.
Wastes time for, as you said, things we could probably divulge into more and would be more exciting to the story and the future of the MC universe.
Now I'm kind of wondering if the whole, overarching thing for their characters was putting together that lullaby that she uses to calm him and kind of played the long game of wanting them to get together. But what if they would have done the lullaby thing as their story arc, and then the fans might have said, oh, no, yeah, they're both kind of like forbidden love. Maybe they could get together. Then you slowly almost indoctrinate the fan base into wanting that instead of, here's how it is. Haha, you got to deal with this
Take
now.
it or leave it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and even Hawkeye didn't know there was anything going on with him because he talks about it with his wife. She's like, how long has this been going on? And he's clueless. So it's not like it was a widely known thing among the team either.
No. Well, I think Cap knew.
He did catch him at the bar.
That really cool scene about him catching him
I love
flirting.
that scene.
Yeah.
One of the best scenes is the party scene.
It's my favorite.
Yep.
Hands down. Love it. The whole thing, not just the hammer lifting or the fighting, the entire scene, because as we said earlier, this is your behind the scenes access to seeing Earth's mightiest heroes when they're not fighting. They're just hanging out, they're having a good time, they're telling stories, and I really think it's a nice touch.
And it's very cool that they bring in like Falcon and War Machine or Iron Patriot or whatever the heck he's going by, because you get to see that they're starting to extend the team or even maybe roll over to some new members. But I mean, you got to talk about that Stan Lee cameo.
And he said, I don't know if it's changed, but when that came out, he said that was his favorite.
And what happened again?
Thor's pouring the alcohol
Yeah.
and talking about how it's not meant for mortal men, and neither was Omaha Beach, Blondie. Stop trying to scare us. Come on.
And he's drunk.
It's a great scene.
It is good.
We get our own little Stanley cameo every time you're on the show because you channel him.
Dude, seriously.
He's a damn mimic.
Language.
Dude, seriously. And I spit.
Okay, so Hawkeye, I thought, was the result of karma in this movie. The first one, he kind of gets the short end of the stick. You don't really get to see him become Hawkeye, until the end. And this one, I mean, from the very beginning, he is getting his time, I think. And the whole to the face with Scarlet Witch saying, I've done the whole mind control thing. Not a fan. I loved that
was
part. It was
brutal.
so
Yeah, it was
great
awesome.
to see that.
I think it goes back to like you were saying about the first movie where he didn't get his due, and I think he was actually really, really ticked off that this wasn't what I signed up for. I didn't sign up to be an automaton or a zombie for a movie. I was supposed to be a superhero. So I think they made a concerted effort to give him some cool lines.
Oh, yeah.
Give
He's
him
got
some
the
cool
best lines.
scenes.
Best
Oh,
lines.
yeah. Well, and he deserves them because in the books, he's a very quippy, smart aleck kind of guy, and he's also very, very capable. He's just a human. I mean, he's very accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, he's supposed to be a really good hand-to-hand fighter too, but some of these guys are enhanced or super or whatever, and he's just a normal guy.
Sure.
We've got a friend who knows a lot about Hawkeye, and he's very concerned that they are possibly going to kill off his family in Infinity War. And we've heard theories that maybe Hawkeye goes to the character Ronin, and maybe that's why.
In an interview Chris Hemsworth did, they took out about 45 minutes of screen time for him. And it was basically his quest where he goes off to find out what's going on with his dreams and the visions and all of that. And I think that really hurt this film because it left a lot of people confused about what's going on here with the Infinity Stones. And I mean, if you really know the comics, I think that may make sense for you. But the average person, especially going into this film, when they see him in that pool, you don't get much explanation about what that is. And all it is him screaming and yelling and lightning shooting out, and you see the Infinity Stones popping up. And I can remember countless people saying, what is that about? We don't get this. Now again, if you've read the comics, you know that, but it took out a key scene where he is literally explaining the history of the Infinity Stones, the Infinite Six, and what they represent.
And if I remember correctly, they did actually shoot it because it's a
Yeah.
deleted scene.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's something you can find on the DVD or whatever now, but they took out something key like that because they really wanted to have Bruce and Natasha.
and Banner. Right. And apparently the test audience footage, they didn't react well to Thor explaining more about the Infinity Stones.
To making sense.
Yeah, it was like, well, it's just not strong enough. And I'm sorry, but that is what we're all building towards is the Infinity Stones and the Infinity War.
So with that, we're going to bring this episode to a close. Avengers Age of Ultron, we're kind of all over the map here. Some of us like it a lot, some of us are in the middle, and some of us, well,
It changed our minds a little bit.
a little bit.
It's just a tad.
Work in progress.
I kind of want to quote Nick Fury when he says at the end, you never know, I'm paraphrasing, what you're going to get. You hope for the best,
What are you talking about, a box of chocolates?
and you make, not today, and you make do with what you get. And is it the best movie? No. but still, you're getting to see your heroes come together on the big screen. It's pretty special.
And at the end of the day, when is that ever a bad thing?
Yep.
So, Age of Ultron, it was fun to watch, it was fun to talk about, and it means we're one Avengers movie closer to the big one, Infinity War. So we'll be back next week with our review on Ant-Man, which, no bias, I'm really excited for. So thanks for tuning in today, and dude, seriously, we'll see you on the next one.
They didn't really need to have the whole farmhouse bedroom scene because
Least favorite of all of
it.
it.
Just I actually zone out just about every time that scene comes on. Not that I'm not a romantic. It's just I'm not.
Well, that wasn't very romantic, so, you know,
Tim Romantic.
No,
not today.
not me.